But Bill C-6 says no. Health Canada inspectors can seize your property without going to court for a warrant. Wow. But consumer products are so dangerous, I think we need this for our safety, right? Now, if, using our current law, Health Canada gets a warrant and seizes your property, or, if the police, there's some very small circumstances, like let's say they find you committing a crime and there's property there, they can seize it without a warrant. Either way, the law as it is now is you have to report immediately to a court what you seized. You actually have to file a report. Here's what I seized. And you have to get a court order to keep it, or you have to return it right away, because this is the rule of law. Remember, the courts supervise the state accessing us or accessing our property. And usually what happens is you ask the court, can I have a little time to figure out what to do with it? The maximum is 30 days, and you have to come back. And if you need the property longer, you have to justify why. And you can do that 2 or 3 times, and the court's going to say, give it back. So actually it forces the government then, to charge you criminally or start forfeiture proceedings or whatever it was, the legal purpose for which you seized it. And you see how that protects us. Because the state can't just seize property and hang on to it for 10, 20 years or forever, or wait you out till you die type thing. That's the rule of law. But under Bill C-6, not only can they seize your property without a court order, they can hold on to it, and they don't have to report it to a court. Now, it's not that bad, because they do involve you. They can send you bills for the cost of them storing your property. Okay? So, it's not like we're not involved in the process, which is also bizarre, because there used to be a legal principle that was completely out of line. If the state was seizing your property for investigation or criminal purposes, there was no way you could be charged. In fact, in our early versions of the Food and Drug Act, even if they wanted a sample, it was clear they had to pay. So they're moving away from this principle that we used to have. And there's no limit to what they can seize. They could seize your factory, they can seize your bank accounts, there's just no limit, and don't have to report to a court. And in some cases, they can destroy your property without a court order. Now, the best part is Bill C-6 creates some administrative offenses. So there's criminal offenses, they can charge you criminally, and the fines are like multi-million dollars. But they can also charge you administratively, and the fines are way lower. Like I think the maximum is like $2,500. And I know this is being billed. This is great for you, because instead of charging you criminally with these huge fines and you have to go through the costly court process, these are quick and easy, and they're just small little fines to drive home the point. And some people are going to go, oh great, I'm so glad they put that in there. This is just great. Well, here's where it gets beautiful, because if you get charged criminally, you get to go to court. First of all, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty if you're charged criminally. You get to go to a court and have an impartial judge. If you're charged with an administrative offense, you're presumed guilty. And in fact, you have to very quickly appeal to the minister and say, no, I want a reconsideration. So you're already convicted, and you have to try and convince them that you're not guilty. So you're presumed guilty instead of innocent. Okay? Now, in the criminal court, as I say, it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. For administrative offense, it's the lower civil standard of balance of probabilities. So it's just, are you more likely to be guilty or not? When you are charged with a regulatory offense, your 2 main defenses are honest but mistaken belief and due diligence. And let me explain those. So let's say we're selling a consumer product, and we send it to a lab to be tested, and the lab sends back test results saying, this is perfectly safe, and we then go on to sell it. And let's say it wasn't safe. Let's say the lab made a mistake. Well, actually, both of those defenses would probably be available to us. We could go to a criminal court and say, well, okay, I accept that this is a dangerous product, but I honestly had that belief, and I was just mistaken because the lab told me it was safe. And a court would say, you don't have a criminal mind, you're not guilty, so we can't imprison you. We can't fine you. Also, if the standard practice of a reasonable person in your circumstance was to send it to the lab, you were acting with due diligence. I mean, if there's a set procedure that's been going on for decades, that the reasonable businessman does, and you were following it, that's called due diligence. Those are our 2 main defenses. If you're charged with an administrative offense, Bill C-6 says those 2 defenses are gone. And I try to think, well, how the heck could you defend yourself? Okay. Now here's where the icing's on the cake. If your property has been seized by the minister, and you are found guilty by the minister of an administrative offense, guess who gets to keep your property?
The minister?
Oh, the minister. Very good. Do you see a bit of a conflict of interest with the fellow who decides whether you're guilty or innocent? You're presumed guilty. He gets to keep your property. I see a little bit of a conflict of interest here. Now, the government is aggressively pushing Bill C-6 because it's popular to say, this is protecting you and your family. In fact, it was funny, when it was Bill C-52 in the last Parliament, in Kamloops, where I live, they were running half-page newspaper ads, and the caption was protecting you and your family, and there were pictures of vulnerable kids. And you'd look at this, I mean, I have to tell you, it evoked an emotional response, like, oh, thank goodness, the government's protecting me and my family. I hadn't read the bill yet. And I hadn't looked into, because the first question I asked is, well, just wait a second, then it was 2008. Do you mean like in 2008 we don't have laws protecting us from, dangerous consumer products? We do. Read the Hazardous Products Act. It gives them tremendous powers. The minister can actually make orders, immediate orders, banning products, taking them from the market. There's like $1 million fines. We've got, the criminal negligence provisions. We've got civil law, which actually has more teeth than even Bill C-6. I mean, we have that protection now. And I'm not saying there's not room to improve the law, but we're not in such a dangerous situation we need to abolish the rule of law. So I told you earlier, we need to wake up about us losing our freedoms. We're no longer in a world where we can assume that laws will be passed that respect the freedoms that our forefathers fought for. And this is being billed as safety. So I have to ask you about Bill C-6. Does it make you feel safe that it abolishes the law of trespass? No, but surely, I mean, if you got police in your backyard, that's pretty safe. Like, no one can attack you. What's wrong with you guys? Do you feel safe that the state can get a warrant to enter your house without evidence of criminal wrongdoing? Does that make you feel safe? No. Does it make you feel safe that the government can seize your property without a warrant? No. Does it make you feel safe that the government can hang on to your property without reporting to a court? No. Does it make you feel safe that the government can keep or destroy your property without a court order? No. No. We should actually be outraged because we're being told this is for our safety when this is one of the most dangerous pieces of legislation I've ever seen. And in fact, I could not have imagined when I was younger that I would ever see in Canada a piece of legislation like this introduced. You couldn't have convinced me years ago that this would happen. So we're in a different world. We're in a situation where we need people to start waking up and getting involved. And a lot of people ask me, well, what can I do? Okay, first of all, this event is sponsored by HANDS, the Health Action Network Society. They have been absolutely instrumental in holding events like this, in educating people, getting speakers like me to wake people up, and I really encourage you to sign up and become a HANDS member. It's quite inexpensive. They do great work. And there's tons of resources. They've got the best health library probably in Canada. You get their magazines, and you support events like this. So I encourage you to support HANDS. I encourage you to support the NHPPA, the organization that I'm involved with. For both of the organizations, please leave your email address so that if there is something urgent that needs to happen, we can contact you and say, no, we need letters written about this type of thing. I often ask people, and because I think everyone, you couldn't get in here until you signed a petition, but if you did, actually I think we had 2 petitions here today. We have the Charter of Health Freedom petition, but also we have one involving Mr. Dahl, that supplier for naturopathic doctors. And if that outraged you, please sign that petition. But I ask people, we need people to write letters, and often people will write one letter, or several letters in one day, to the MP, the Minister of Health and the Prime Minister. But why won't you commit to writing like a letter a month? Like, is that too onerous? I mean, really, that's an hour a month. But actually, it makes a huge difference. And I will take questions later. I'm just about done, but just to be fair to everyone else. But you need to connect to groups like HANDS or the NHPPA, or there's several other groups that are doing great work. If you go to the Charter of Health Freedom website, it lists a bunch of groups that are sponsoring that. The Charter is not our initiative. It's been adopted by a whole bunch of groups, and now it belongs to them. Because we need a wide coalition, we need everyone to be unified.